Hi, I'm Dan McMahon. I'm the principal at DeMatha Catholic High School, and welcome to 21 Practices for Catholic School Leaders. I've been principal here at DeMatha for 22 years, and I served quite a stint as a department chair earlier. We're going to look at some practices that I hope you can adapt to your school or perhaps use exactly as they are described here. I'm a good email correspondent. If you want any information, if you want copies of anything that I display here, if you just want to have a chat, I'm happy to do that. Please email me at the address below. We have a foundational sense of leadership that comes from really three places, I would say. Chris Lowney's work on servant leadership and the Jesuits from a book called Heroic Leadership, very important to me. I'm also extremely interested in the work of Parker Palmer and his Courage to Teach, in the work of Jim Collins in Good to Great, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that, and James McGregor Burns' helpful distinction between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. We're going to walk through a few philosophic things, and then we're going to do some extremely practical things that I hope you'll be able to use. One of the things that I like to say is, and not mine, but borrowing, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I do think it's important that you have good strategies, but you can have all the good strategies in the world. If you have bad culture, that's going to overwhelm it. On the other hand, really good culture tends to bring out the best in everyone. And I think this is one of those foundational things that you'll find out throughout this, that almost everything we do, I'm going to draw back to some aspect of culture that we try to create at DeMatha. One of my favorite quotations is by the great Spanish demographer, Jose Ortega y Gasset. And you can see that he says, "We believe that civilization or culture is there in the same way as the earth's crust or the forest primeval." It's not. Culture needs to be cultivated every single day in every decision that we make. The first thing that I think a leader has to be able to do in a Catholic school is talk about prayer and praying. And I know that for myself, in the classroom, we pray both extemporaneously and we pray corporate prayers. I think it's really significant to model this as a form of leadership. I also think that when you are done a prayer, that it's really helpful to gloss the prayer. And whenever I pray in groups in front of parents, in front of students, when we get to the end, I ask, what is it that we've done? I'm a firm believer that we need to be really conscious and intentional about this. And so I encourage you to not only use standard prayers, but to use prayers that you develop, or when I'm working with my students in class, after about the first quarter, I ask them to submit prayers that they want us to do. This almost always turns out to be a terrific exercise as they get a chance to practice something that's significant. After all, we're Catholic schools. A second practice, and this probably applies a little bit more to high schools than perhaps it does to other Catholic school leaders, I insist that all of my seniors complete what's called a senior exit interview. I've clipped a couple here, and the senior exit interview, I'm happy to share with you. For us, it's about 40 questions long, asking for all sorts of observations about students' experiences, recommendations that they give to freshmen. This has been really influential for us. We've used it for lots of things. It caused us to change the way that we do our senior retreat. But one of the highlights is I ask people to write about faculty members that have had an influence on them. And these are a couple that we have here. Mrs. Phelan had a big impact on my DeMatha career. Whenever I was in a time of trouble academically, Mrs. Phelan was always there to help me get through it. And after I started going to her, my GPA and work ethic in school went to another level. I don't know what I would have done without Mrs. Phelan. One of the things that I like to do is share these comments with faculty afterwards. So you can see that I have a sample letter up here. And so, for example, over the summer, I might write to Father Damien. Dear Damien, right, this past year, I asked students to complete this. They mentioned you, and then I print for them a list of this. I keep all of these in faculty folders, and I find one of the really helpful things when I'm helping people apply for graduate school, when I am helping nominate them for awards, having the senior exit interviews is really great. I have to tell you that for a faculty member over the summer to get a letter with comments from students is an unbelievable charge, and really gets them excited about the next year. Senior exit interviews, really terrific. One of the thankless jobs that faculty members do is write letters of recommendation. There's really no reward for this except the rewards that are inherent in doing it. But some people get asked to do many more of these than others. I'm really opposed to paying faculty members to write letters of recommendation. There's something really creepy about that, I think. But some people do many more than others. So here's the way that we solve that. At the end of the year, I get from college counseling the list of people who've written letters, how many they've written. And then I go to the Alumni Association, and what I ask them for are gift cards for people at the very top end. And what this allows the school to do is not to pay faculty members to do it, but it allows the Alumni Association, on behalf of all graduating students, to be able to recognize that some people have done above and beyond. And I'm able to afford to send Amazon gift cards to those 10, 12, 14 people who clearly wrote 20, 25 letters of recommendation for our students. Good letters of recommendation serve the student, but they also serve the school because it gives the college a window into what the school is doing. I nominate faculty and students for every single award I can. And if I have to invent awards, I will. One of the things I'm proud of is over the last 20 years at DeMatha, we have developed 5 teaching chairs. This allows me to give small awards of between $1,000 and $2,000 a year to the people who are the chair holder of those things. You can see them listed there. I nominate students for awards. I nominate faculty for awards. I do have to say, there have been colleagues that I've had at other schools that have told me they do not nominate faculty for awards because they're concerned about repercussions inside their school with other faculty. I acknowledge that could happen. What I would hope for is that we can develop a culture where we are able to celebrate everyone's successes. You can see here, this is a colleague of mine, Sam Haller, up on the screen. He was a Washington Post winner. We have, on the other hand, the Collins Wooten Chair of Teaching Excellence, which is posted outside of the school's faculty lounge. I think it's important to write letters to people, both corporate and personal. So I send faculty members a Christmas letter every year, which is corporate. That is, everybody gets the same letter. But they also get a letter from me at the bottom, handwritten. So I do these over Thanksgiving. I have my administrative assistant print them out, and I send these to everybody. And taking those moments to think about what you value about people and what you think about them and how you recognize each one's personal year, how that is going, what struggles they are dealing with, what celebrations they're engaged in. I think that that's a really important form. Again, develop relationships, create culture. I write notes to students. A colleague and I handwrite a note to every student who makes the principal's list every quarter. We split them up. I take seniors and sophomores the first quarter, and then we flip-flop for the second quarter. I do freshmen and juniors, and then again the third and the fourth quarters. The notes don't have to be long, but this is in lieu of giving them a printed certificate that seems anonymous and not particularly helpful. This is one sample that I wrote to a student who came back, shared it with me. I'll read it here. It says, "Dear Matt, congratulations on achieving principal's list for the 16-17 school year. What a treat to have you in class. Thank you for representing us as a gentleman and scholar. Have a wonderful, wonder-filled summer. All right, and then my sign off. Traditionally, Pax, meaning peace, right, and Dr. M. So I think it's important. I also send notes to students who achieve Eagle Scout, or I send notes to students who are recognized in any other way. I think it's nice for those things to happen. Again, the creation of culture. I think it's important to have breakfast and lunch with colleagues, and I mean this both inside the school and outside. Over the summer, what I tried to do is have breakfast with my colleagues from various schools in the Archdiocese that I know. And I'm often able to have 12 to 15 different breakfasts. And though it requires time and organization, learning about somebody else's charism and thinking through what they do and sharing with them how I think about school can be really valuable. It also helps when there are times if I have to call someone and let them know about something that happened involving their students, it gives us a base to work from. And if they have to call me with news that my kids did something at a dance or a game, it gives us a relationship to work from. But I also think you can do this in school. And I try to rotate through having lunch with my assistant principals, with Dean of Students' office. Lots of times this is just during the summer, walk down to local diner or the Subway or Chipotle or wherever else it is and spend some time off campus having lunch, finding out about their ideas for the future, their vision of the school, what they think we do well, what they'd like, projects they'd like to work on. I don't think you can overestimate this personal touch. Have breakfast and lunch with colleagues inside and outside the school. Develop professional development programs that you can run yourself. We have a teaching faculty of about 75. We offer what we call a Serfois summer seminar. You can see the fact sheet is listed there, and there's a sample of picture of people who come in. It's modeled that you do about 5 3-hour classes with a 6th class devoted to project reports. So you're talking about 18 to 20, what you might regard as classroom hours, and about the same amount of work outside of that. The person who does the instruction, they send samples. We just picked ours for this coming summer. They send sample curricula, what they would like to do, work on with other faculty members. They get paid. And everybody who signs up to take the course gets paid also. It is a terrific idea about teachers teaching teachers. You can see the past projects we've had here. Again, I will share the whole slide deck so you can look at that, but I will also be glad to send you all the information here. And you can see we've had literature, history, mathematics, science, music, acting, creative writing. We have done all sorts of interesting things. We're going to be working on the history of terrorism and extremism over this coming summer. In addition, we also offer what we call Father Roque Technology Awards. This is for people who want to take on some technology project. We've had math teachers do statistical analysis of our data for us. That was terrific. We've had people convert things over to slides. We've had people develop all sorts of units for how they might want to work with students. We had been fortunately practicing cyber school days about 6 years ago, so 2 years before the pandemic hit and we were suddenly forced online. Many of us had already been practicing this. And so Father Roque gives awards to faculty to practice something on technology that they want to do over the summer. One of the requirements is when you come back at the first faculty meetings, you present to your colleagues the idea, again, that teachers learn best from other teachers. I think that you should have gifts and celebrations whenever you can. Each year to the faculty, we give an opening of year gift. You can see a couple of samples, thermos coffee mugs, gym bags, whatever it is. I think that rewarding people and recognizing them is really important. We try to make these as personal as possible. You get your name on them, whatever we're giving out, articles of clothing, Anyway, I think that gifts and which express gratitude is really important, and so is celebrations. If you are a high school, I think it's important that you reach out to your local middle schools, especially schools that might be feeder schools. We run middle school workshops in math, in science, and in the humanities. This allows our teachers chances to practice doing presentations. We also solicit presentations from the other middle school teachers. We do this in these three general areas every year. And see if I can call up a sample. You can see what the science teacher workshop agenda was during 2016. We've already run the language arts teachers workshop here for this year. The middle school mathematics teachers workshop is coming up. This allows us to learn what middle school teachers are thinking, and they want to know what we're looking for, particularly for our freshmen. I might mention that I think professional development comes in two varieties. Some of it is sort of immediate use. You can take this and walk away with it. But sometimes professional development just adds to the invisible architecture of our own learning. One of the things that we have found in all of these is that sometimes we do something that is just for fun. We read a story that probably is not ever going to be used in a middle school, or we do a lab which is probably never going to convert to a middle school science. Or we bring in instructors from the University of Maryland, talk about mathematics education, right? Not only K to 12, but K to 16. This can be a really valuable experience for your teachers, and it can be a tremendous benefit to the others. We don't charge for these, and we treat people to lunch. I think it's important that teachers talk to other teachers. We have a terrific director of teacher formation, Sam Haller, who works with Tom Kraswitz, who's really influential in creating teaching circles. About 4 times a year, we establish a topic. We get people together. Lots of times one person leads. We talk about assessment. We talk about standards-based curriculum. We talk about chunking time. We talk about the importance of forgetting. The topics are different, but they apply to teachers. People are not required to go to one of these, but we often find that we end up with between 12 and 15 people at each one. It rotates around throughout the course of the year. It reminds you that really good teaching is a constant act of dialogue and talking about what you're doing. It helps make you more intentional as a teacher and more reflective as a teacher. When hiring, for me, one of the important guides that I keep in mind is to get the right people on the bus. And you can get them in the right seats afterwards. But there are times when I hire people for a job that doesn't really fit their skill set, but that I know I might need a couple of years down the road. That's a luxury that I've been afforded by the president of the school, who one time allowed me to hire a math teacher who I didn't quite need at that point, but was able to construct a job for that year because I knew I had a retirement coming up, and I wanted to make sure that I had someone completely ready for the next year. Finding the people is more important than finding the skill set, especially in a high school setting. There's lots of things that you can teach people to do regarding a skill, but getting the right people with you is unbelievably important. Good people trump strategy every day because they create the culture that you're going to have. I think that taking people on administrative team retreat is really important. This is a picture from one of our retreats. We go every year in August at the beginning of before the school year starts. We spend about 30 hours. We leave from here. We go off-site. We spend the afternoon. I'll show you an agenda where we pray. We get reports on things that we did for the past year. We look forward to the coming year. We eat together, have a wonderful evening. It's often filled with games and discussions, and a morning session, and we finish up usually with prayer service or a mass. Sometimes varies from year to year. And then we come back ready to start the year. You'll notice that there are about 40 people in this picture. We usually take, for administrative team retreat, we believe leadership is a shared experience, and we should be training the next generation of leaders also. So every department chair, heads of finance, advancement, admissions, athletic directors, people who head large clubs and organizations, student government, NHS, BSU, all of these people are invited. In addition, we usually pick a couple of wild cards, younger teachers who are not in leadership roles, but we think should grow into those. You take 40 people and you're going to have an absolutely great experience. Lots of schools do administrative team retreats with just a very small group. At DeMatha, the philosophy is create a much broader shared leadership. Lots of this comes from Chris Lowney philosophically, and this is the way we put it into practice. You can see here's a sample agenda from last year. We left at about 10:30 on Monday the 16th, checked in. We have a welcome. We reviewed our end of the year comments. We talked about what our core teaching values are and how we rank those. It's really important. How we use block, all 8. We have what's called a flex period. You can see we talked about a project that we're taking on next year called the DeMatha Experience. We did something regarding mental health because we were really concerned what it was going to look like this year. Thank heavens we did. We've still had to make a lot of adjustments, but having that initial practice of those things turned out to be really important for us. Keeping with themes of communication, relationship building, creation of culture, we run different parent coffees every year. I run 4 at the beginning of the year, and then I run 4 more in late January and early February. And we have counselor coffees that take place in December and in May. At parent coffees, always begin with a prayer, talk about the prayer with the faculty. I talk about developmental expectations, and we do these year by year. So freshman parents have really different interests, experiences than do senior parents, and same with sophomores and juniors. So I'm able to talk about where we think students are developmentally. Parents find this amazingly helpful very often. I tell them that things that we're watching for and things that I want them to watch for. The fall one, I talk about what the school's theme for the year is and how we're going to enact that, what they should expect from us. We like to make sure they know who their son's counselor is. It's a really important thing, and the counselor often speaks. Talk about, for example, social media, or with juniors and seniors, what having a job might mean or might look like. Significant calendar dates. Dean of Students likes to get a chance to talk to them. The athletic director does. But for the most part, it usually goes an hour. We try and get people in 7:45, out 8:45. We feed them coffee and donuts. They get a chance to network just a little bit, and we ask questions. We've started live streaming these also. So even people who can't be with us in person are often able to be with us online, and they can submit questions. And then we establish a frequently asked questions thing and resend that back out to all of the entire class worth of parents. Parent coffees. I love being able to do that. If you're asking your students to do summer reading, you should be asking your faculty to do summer reading. It reminds us that we have obligations to each other. You can see some of the things that we have picked before here. This past year, we did 400 Souls by Ibram Kendi. We haven't picked our new one for this year, but you can see we did James Lang's Small Teaching. We did Just Mercy one year, and we were able to meet with Brian Stevenson. That was a really great experience. We did wonderful work with Dan Willingham on Why Students Don't Like School. So having faculty do summer reading can be really valuable. It gives you a good jumping off point. Again, it binds us together as a common community. A couple of years, we've been able to do summer reading that we also had the students do. So the year we did Harry Potter, we had everybody do it, all the different levels. Of course, that was close to 20 years ago. I think having joint faculty meetings can be really valuable. This is my 22nd year, as I said. 7 different times I've been able to get faculty from other schools to join us. We have a really good relationship with Gonzaga College High School, who is an all-boys school right close to us, just a few miles away. Since we educate all boys, we've been able to meet with them 3 different times to talk about the education of boys and what that looks like in both of our perspectives. We have really good schools in our area, all girls schools, Elizabeth Seton High School, that we've been able to partner with to bring in speakers. And we have really good co-ed schools in the county with us, St. Vincent Pallotti, Bishop McNamara High School. And we've been able to gather all 4 schools together, talk about things that are unique to our demographics and what we are looking at and how we're thinking about teaching and learning at all these levels. You get faculty from various schools together, and that turns out to be a really important and valuable experience. Really encourage you to think about joint faculty meetings. Oftentimes, you'll find that your students, the only time that they meet students from other places is, in some ways, if they are playing sports against them. So in the Archdiocese of Washington, we have a student academic symposium, which allows students from all the high schools to submit papers, ideas, 10 minutes, and it teaches students both presentation skills, and it allows them to be good audience members. And you get to see some really cool things done by students at other schools, and so do your students. We've been able to do this for 7 years now. You can see that I have one from 2014. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, we've had to suspend the program, but we are bringing it back in the spring of 2023. This is a great experience, and it allows us to pursue one of the core things we're interested in, right? Academics. One of the ways that we help people think about reflection is through VIA, Strength Finder, or Pearson, or Gallup. Some of these cost money, some of these are free. If you use the free ones, they are just as good as the other ones. One of the valuable things that we find about doing this is it helps people reflect on their strengths. It allows for department chairs to have really strong conversations with people when they do their self-evaluations. And we ask people to think about what risk they want to take every year and what kinds of things they're hoping to accomplish, and using their strengths, using the things that they'd like to work on, their opportunities. Using these can be really valuable and really helpful. Glad to send information on any of this sort of stuff. I think that you should find reasons to celebrate. We try to have end of the year or end of the quarter parties, sometimes tied to after parent-teacher conferences. If we're having meetings the next day, we gather in, we have an alumni lounge on campus that we're able to do that. If there are births, weddings, graduations from graduate school take place, find reasons to get people together. You have 25-year people or whatever year it is that you celebrate at. We give 15-year people an honorary diploma at our academic awards night. 25-year people, we put on a big deal. We gather up a whole class of those people who are in year 24, 25, 26, and we have a big celebration. All colleagues come, spouses, we invite alumni in, have retreats, have happy hours, find reasons to celebrate. There are lots of them, and this helps establish a positive and optimistic, forward-looking culture. You can see that if you do your celebrations right, sometimes it'll look like the aftermath of a riot. That was just for fun there. I think you should encourage feedback as much as possible. And I know this is hard for me. Sometimes I end up reading about somebody who's ranting because the landscaping crew came and was cutting the grass. We have very little here on campus, but was cutting the grass outside their window, disrupted a movie they were showing or disrupted a test that they were giving. But it's still important to know all of those things. Give people a chance to give feedback. So we usually send a prompt. This is anonymous. They can sign it if they want, but it's anonymous. And we say, hey, here's a couple of things that have happened during the year, right? We had our faculty cookout. We dedicated our Heritage Plaza. How did you think about homecoming week? One of the reasons we submit prompts is that because otherwise it is occasionally true that people only remember the last thing that happened the last week, and that's all you'll hear about, and they'll forget, oh, I did want to mention something about new student orientation or opening faculty meetings. This has been allowed us to change things throughout the year. We've made lots of adaptations to schedule, announcements, department meetings, all sorts of things we've been able to go because people have been able to point these things out to us. In the admission season, one of the things that we like to do, again, start the culture early, develop relationships, work towards transformational things. We like to call all of our applicants at home. Once we do so, we need, if we have 500 or 600 applicants in a year, we've got to spread that out among 30 or 40 people. And we ask people to call. We give them a little script saying, hey, congratulations on your acceptance at DeMatha. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We look forward to hearing from you. And if people ask questions about tuition, or then we say, well, here you'll want to call our finance office. Or if they have questions about curriculum, we can say, well, I can get that department chair to call you, or the dean of the academic dean. Or if they want to know about campus ministry life, we can have those people get in touch. Again, it is a chance to reach out and talk to people. One of the things that we have found to be successful is we ask our alums to open up their homes, or sometimes current parents, and we're able to invite people who live around that to that, so that we do in-home visits with people. Actually got this idea from a school in Arizona, Brophy Prep. I really encourage people, go visit other schools, and if they have good ideas, take them and adapt them for your school and your school environment. This is one of the things that I really like, and I do try to visit other schools whenever I am away from home during the school year. My last piece of advice is to what I call walk the dog. And you can see this is me walking. We do a walk for the homeless every year. This is me walking with my Chesapeake Bay Retriever, Copper, who's not with us anymore. You can see on the other side, my Fox Red Labrador Retriever, Milo, has his own student ID card for this year. By walk the dog, what I really mean is find a way to talk to people. Our president, Father James, has a beautiful singing voice. And every year during our Kaleidoscope concert, which is a fundraiser for our enormously large band program, which comprises, and music program, which comprises about 350 students and is just tremendous, 5 full-time faculty. Anyway, Father James usually sings with the backing of either the jazz ensemble or perhaps with the wind ensemble. This year he did To Dream the Impossible Dream with the full wind ensemble, which is just a spectacular performance. This gives Father James a chance to go and be with students and to be with faculty members. It is a passport to talk to kids. The amount of kids who have ever come up to me and said, hey, Dr. McMahon, guess how I'm doing in algebra over my 41 years of teaching is precisely 0. The amount of kids who come up to me and say, can I pet the dog? The amount of kids who come up and say, what happened to the dog? What's the dog's name? Gives me a chance to say, hey, run down a Monday schedule for me. What you're looking for are passports to talk to kids. I find not only walk the dog, do a service trip, go with kids on a service trip, chaperone a field trip, anything that you can do to create a culture where you can then talk to students and be with them a little bit on their terms, a little bit on your terms, gives you a chance to do that. Whatever it is, find a way that you can walk the dog. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us. Again, I offer you anything that I have here. I'm happy to correspond, particularly by email. And I am so happy that the NCEA is able to offer programming both in this way and in other ways. Thank you so much.